Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me? Okay, thank you. Good morning, friends. Yes, well, friends, good morning to all of you. And it's my privilege to be with you. I'm Dr. Joshua Ernest. Earlier, just a few months back, I retired from National Institute of Technical Teacher Training Institute. And I have been working in the area of outcome-based curriculum for the last 40 years there in the institute, and I have guided various universities and institutes in developing outcome-based curriculum, outcome-based assessment, and things like that. So I hope these sessions, these 3 days, I'll be discussing with you, talking to you, sharing with you many things regarding outcome-based education. In this, there will be basically 2 assignments based which you have to submit. One will be a multiple choice, and the other one will be a good question paper. If these 2 items are submitted successfully with all the features of the outcome-based assessment, then the certificate will be issued. That's what AICT has clarified, or that's what AICT wants. So it is necessary that you attend all the sessions well, so that you will be able to do those tasks, 2 tasks which AICT wants successfully. That is number 1. Number 2, many of the things, or I would say most of the things which I am going to discuss with you will not be available on the internet, because these are based on our experiences and the training programs that NITR has been conducting for the last 30, 40 years. And that's what I would like to say. Therefore, it is necessary that you attend all the sessions, try to answer some of the questions which would be raised, and at the end of the session, you can ask questions for which I'll try to give you answers. So that's the way we are going to go about. So friends, let me start the session. Oh, sorry. Well, I was talking to you, and I think Can you hear me, all of you? Yes. Can you see me also? Yes. Okay. Thank you. So, I'm sorry, my mic was muted. Now I think it is unmuted. Well, I'm Dr. Joshua Ernest. I just superannuated a few months back from National Institute of Technical Teacher Training, and I have been teaching for the last 30, 40 years. My area of specialization is outcome-based education, outcome-based curriculum, outcome-based assessment, wind power technology. So these are my specialized areas. Basically, I'm an electrical engineer, but these are my specializations in which I gained over the last few years. Okay, so most of the teaching fraternity in India interpret OBE as they perceive it. To assure uniformity and the right perspective, we at Inter Bhopal have published several papers based on our successful outcome-based education projects and researches undertaken in several states. These have been compiled as a very recognized textbook for scientific design and implementation of OBE across India, especially in engineering education. As this book is there, it is outcome curriculum in engineering education, authored by me and Dr. Shashikant Gupta, my colleague. This is the only book available in India in as a ready reckoner for and most of the things which I'm talking over here, discussing, you can get in this book as well. So if you miss out certain things, you may have to procure this book, or even otherwise you can do it. And that's so all the things, most of the things are over here, and towards you can go to the HI website and get a copy of it if you want to. Right? So next. So I start the session. At the end of the session, you will be able to establish the industry connect with OBE for enhancing the employability of graduates for each particular branch of engineering. So this will be the outcome of this session that I'm going to take. Establish is an action verb which is observable and measurable as well, right? So this is what it would be like. So every professional, including we as faculty members, need to practice lifelong learning, as NBA outcome is also applicable to us. Therefore, we should continue to learn new things, unlearn certain wrong concepts which may have crept into us, and relearn so that the wrong concepts are taken away. And especially regarding various concepts, including the outcome-based education related terms. Now, see at this picture, you will see there are adults, and you are also an adult. Therefore, you come with a lot of experience. Therefore, convincing you will be difficult unless and until you come with an open mind. That's why I said you have to learn, unlearn, and relearn. So there may be certain concepts which you think would have been right, but then as we discuss, you will find that some concepts you may have to change or unlearn and relearn. That's why I brought in this slide. Okay. First of all, all of you should very, very clearly understand that the curriculum is the constitution of any educational program. Hence, for effective implementation of outcome-based curriculum, it is imperative that all teachers understand the ethos and the philosophy of OBC, right? So, uh, are you able to hear me? All of you? Okay. Hi, sir. It's not visible? Oh, let me see. From Can you hear me and see my PowerPoints as well? Yes. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. I was just wondering because I can only ask in the chat. Fine. 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 Thank you. Okay. Okay. So we go over here from here. Now, let all of us should understand technical education and its success is all about preparing graduates for the world of work, right? And both for wage as well as self-employment. Are we doing that? That's the first fundamental question, or I would say the first question that we as technical teachers have to ask ourselves. Are we preparing our graduates for the world of work? That means on the day of graduation, would they be able to do certain things, not knowing? That's the question. So outcome-based education is all about doing. The most striking feature of OBE is not about the student knowing the course earlier called as subject, but it is all about the student doing the industry job at the threshold level, at the workplace due to that course. That means every course that we teach, we should be able to equip our students to do a particular macro level job in the industry. That should be our motto when we teach any course, right? Now, regarding the industry definition, what do you understand by the industry? I'm going a bit fast because we lost some time. The term industry means any industry, any the term industry means just give me a second. I think I'll unmute one device. Okay. Now I think my voice must be more clear. The term industry means any enterprise in the community or the corporate sector, self-employed or wage employed that helps to earn one's livelihood. So you see, our teaching should help the students not only get wage employment, but also undertake self-employment. So that is what an industry definition is considered in this case, right? Now, there are two major categories of industries world over. We call it the MMS type of industries, that is the manufacturing, marketing, and service type of industries. And the next one is research and development type of industries. And of these, 90% of the engineers are employed in the MMS type of industries, while only about 10 to 15% or 5% may be employed in the R&D type of industries. It depends upon the occupation or the program for which you are teaching, right? Now, what does this indicate? This indicates there can be two types of UG programs. One we call the BTech or engineering technology programs. The other one is the BE or the engineering programs. And this is matching with the need of the NEP 2020 for improving the UG PG engineering programs as well. So this is one thing that all of you should think about whenever you're redesigning a curriculum. That's what I just wanted to bring in. But your focus should be for employment of the students. And that happens, and that will happen only when you direct your teaching Yeah, management courses. When we talk of management courses, it is at the PG level, right? We're talking about the UG and diploma level programs. That's what I'm talking about, especially. Okay. Now, regarding the technical workforce in the industry, there are basically technologists, that's after diploma program, and then technicians, that's after the ITI program, MMS type of industries after the UG program, and the R&D type of engineers after the UG program. So this is the technical workforce required in the industry in India. Now, what are the job functions? If you look at this, a skilled worker or technician will be operating and checking, while a technologist will be designing, inspecting, organizing. A MMS type of industry will be planning, managing, evaluating, developing, while an R&D type of industry would be innovating, designing, and undertaking research. So you see the level of practical or the depth of practical skills required from a skilled worker to a R&D type of industry, R&D type of graduates changes. Here from zero to the ITI fellow or the technician would require from more practical skills and less of theoretical skills, while the R&D engineer would require more of theoretical skills and less of practical. But all of them require, only the percentage changes. So this should be in the back of your mind whenever you are teaching any course or teaching any program. Now, if you look at the ratio of the technical workforce requirement in the industry, it is roughly 1:3:6:9. If one R&D, for every R&D, one R&D engineer, that could be about 3 MMS type of engineers, 6 technologists or after the diploma engineers, if you call it, and the technicians or the ITI pass outs, ITI level pass outs. Now, with this in the background, what does traditional education tell about? In the traditional education, everything is with the student, a teacher. The teacher knows where he has to take the students, and the students are just waiting to get from the teacher everything. That means the teacher becomes the whole soul information dispenser. While in OBE, the destination, even before it is taught, is told to the students. The students will not have to depend on the teacher for where he has to go. He knows it right in the beginning. And in order to reach there, he may take the help of the teacher, or he may not take. So suppose Gateway of India you have to reach, you can take a train, you can take a plane, you can take a car, you can take a motorbike or anything, but you can reach. That means in order to reach the destination or the outcome, the student can learn from the teacher, the student can learn from the internet, the student can learn from the book, the teacher and the student can learn from videos, many ways. But the destination is known to the students. In traditional curriculum or traditional education, the destination was most of the time unknown to the students, right? So hence in the curriculum, we'll have to make the outcomes very, very clear. That's the basic issue, but that is the basic feature of outcome-based curriculum. So I'll go a bit fast over here again. There is a paradigm, therefore, there is a paradigm shift from the traditional education to the outcome-based education. From teacher-centric to student-centric, from input-based to outcome-based, from teacher as an information dispenser to the teacher as a learning facilitator, discipline-specific, it is interdisciplinary, campus-centric, it is anywhere or online-centric, time-specific, it is anytime, anywhere again, and industry distant from the education. Industry has to be a close partner in the education system for engineering education with respect to outcome-based curriculum. So with these in the mind, we go ahead. Now, therefore, OBE is a game changer for a knowledge-based economy that everybody knows. All of you also talk about it. With the disruptive technologies, what are the disruptive technologies? Disruptive technologies are, over the years, many disruptive technologies came. Earlier, there was no computer. During my time when I graduated in 1978, there was not much of a computer, right? So disruptive technologies are not destructive technologies, let me put it. There is a difference between disruptive technologies and destructive technologies. Disruptive technologies means the way your life changes. So when the computers came, the way the society lived changed, right? The way society has to live completely keeps on changing. That are changing the way of life in the society. The conventional syllabus also has to undergo a sea change. Now, therefore, rather than tinkering with the old traditional curriculum here and there, outcome-based curriculum is a total transformation. A re-engineering is essential for outcome-based curriculum to be successful. This is one very, very important aspect to be thought about. And Michael Hammer, who's called the father of re-engineering, says that incremental and evolutionary changes will not happen in re-engineering. It is a total overhaul. Therefore, instead of tinkering with the outcome-based traditional curriculum, you have to redesign your curriculum to make it outcome-based in letter and spirit. Now, who are the stakeholders of the curriculum? Or stakeholders' expectations in the outcome-based curriculum? The issue is every student, the student is the most important stakeholder because he has to get the job, he has to live his life, he has to know what he has to do, and therefore his question would be, what are the learning outcomes that I should acquire and at what level? Does your curriculum tell the student what he has to acquire? What outcomes at what level? The teacher would like to know what and how I should teach to develop the learning outcomes or LOs. The industry would like to know what competencies do the graduates possess when they go to them for employment. The examiner would like to know what learning outcomes should be assessed and how to assess the attainments of the learning outcomes. The supporting staff would like to know which equipment or instruments and consumables to be kept ready in the laboratory or the workshop to develop the learning outcomes. The curriculum developer, for whom is the curriculum meant for? To decide the program specific outcomes, that is PSOs, to be included in the outcome-based curriculum. The administrator would like to know what facilities and equipment must be provided to implement the OBC. The government would like to know, will the graduates be work ready and employable? And the society would like to know, will the unemployment level decrease? So every stakeholder has different questions in their mind when they look at the curriculum. So does your curriculum clearly indicate or answer all these questions? If that is there, then your curriculum is good, or you'll have to reframe, reform, or redo your curriculum or revise your curriculum. Now, scientific curriculum development has to logically and scientifically go through 4 distinct stages with the feedback. And they are the curriculum planning, curriculum designing, curriculum implementation, curriculum evaluation, and the feedback. All these 4 stages make up curriculum development. So curriculum development is not curriculum design. Let me be very clear. Curriculum plan, all these 4 components with the feedback put together is called curriculum development. So basically every teacher will have to do the 3rd stage, that is curriculum implementation. Curriculum evaluation, planning and designing, every teacher may not have to do. Generally senior teachers do it. But all of you, if you are aware of how curriculum planning and designing is done, your curriculum implementation would be much more easier and will be helpful to you. And after one cycle of curriculum is done, curriculum evaluation is taken care of. So what is a curriculum life cycle? The curriculum life cycle is this. That means first if 2021 you do the curriculum planning, in 2022 by June your curriculum document is ready. Excuse me. And in the university the students come and the curriculum is implemented for 4 years, and in 2026 the students graduate. Out of that, 4 may enter the industry, 4 may drop out as well. And then you do the curriculum evaluation after 1 year. And this is called the curriculum life cycle. So this generally happens, and this you need to do, and this repeated cycles take place. Now, in curriculum planning, I think in every institute there should be a curriculum development cell, which includes the curriculum development specialist, the teachers, and the industry. And they should monitor the implementation of the curriculum so that the curriculum is, I would say, implemented in letter and spirit. Now, the first thing in curriculum design that you do is undertake occupational analysis of each educational program. That means critically examine the present and the future job functions of the graduate for each educational program. So this is called occupational analysis. Example of a job function by an electrical engineering graduate from a BTech program is in the MMS type of industry. Could be test, market, and service electrical equipment and instruments. So when you do occupational analysis, you will find that most of the electrical engineers graduating from the institutes, when they reach the industry, they are testing something, marketing something, or servicing something, right? So this is the major job function of a BTech electrical engineer in an MMS type of. And when I say MMS, it is marketing, manufacturing, marketing, and service type of industry. So after doing this, then what you do, you find out what should be the aim of the program, or what should be the PEOs, the program educational objectives. And they are generally written at the universal level. NBA calls aims as PEOs, but basically they are aims. That means the PEO is what expertise the graduate is expected to attain after working for 3 to 5 years in the industry, consequent to the UG program. That means on the day of the UG program, he will not have an expertise. He will be at the threshold level. When I say threshold level, means minimum acceptable level, which the industry also agrees. So PEO is after 3 to 5 years. Then that means an aim is written at the universal. It is a universal level outcome. So it is also a learning outcome. That's what I want you to remember. So it is written as an open-ended futuristic statement about an educational program which excites people about the curriculum they have to design and implement so that the graduates perform at that level. Got it? That means the PEO will help you to design as well as teach so that the student is able to perform at that expertise level. Now, what a PEO for an MMS type of industry for an electric graduate would look like? One is provide environmental friendly solutions to complex engineering problems related to electrical power and energy systems, adapting professional ethics. So this is an example of a PEO. Provide environment friendly solutions to complex engineering problems. I have underlined the word complex because that is what Washington Accord wants. They want that all UG graduates should be able to find solutions to complex engineering problems. Otherwise, they are not. Otherwise, they would be at the diploma level, right? In the diploma level, the industry requires only people to solve broadly defined engineering problems. Fine. Okay. Now, often the student, who is the most important stakeholder of the outcome-based curriculum, is not very clear about the different types of learning outcomes, LOs, expected to be displayed or exhibited by him at the different exit levels. Now, these LOs basically are at different exit levels. At the end of the UG program, you have the program-specific outcomes. So program-specific outcome is also an exit level learning outcome. That means he exits from the program with the PSOs. So in the industry, these are called goals of the UG program, and it is stated as global level outcomes, GLOs I call it. So a goal is a subset of the aim, generally more in number, and is defined as broadcast statements that indicate the end point of an educational program. Okay, this is analogous to the PSO. So global aims or goals are PSOs are basically goals of a curriculum. Now, what is the industry expectation from various accords? The Washington Accord says, solve complex engineering problems, which means that the problems have no obvious solution and require abstract thinking, originality in analysis to formulate suitable models. Got it? That means if you are teaching your course, unless you teach your course to solve complex engineering problems, the student will not be employable by the industry as a graduate engineer. Sydney Accords talks about solving broadly defined engineering problems. We are not members of the Sydney Accord. However, it helps us to know that in the diploma programs, it should be this after the each diploma program, the students will have to solve only broadly defined engineering problems. They don't have to design many things. They don't have to design components. They don't have to design circuits. They don't have to design systems that the graduate engineer is supposed to do. Okay, so my diploma holder friends, I would like to say, review your curriculum and try to find out whether you are encroaching into the area of the UG programs. Okay, that's one question that my diploma friends should think of, and the diploma education should think of. While in the Dublin Accord, the technician is required to do well-defined engineering problems. Okay, so diploma holders should neither encroach into the area of UG programs, nor they should stoop down to technician level outcomes. So the outcome should be written in such a way, for the UG program, it should be able to solve, the outcome should be able to solve complex engineering problems. For the diploma program, the outcomes, the learning outcomes written should be written for solving broadly defined engineering problems, and for the technician or the ITI level skilled workers, their curriculum will be revised so that they will be able to solve well-defined engineering problems. So this differentiation, all of us should very, very clearly understand in order to help us to teach so that the students become employable after the programs. Now, example of a PSO that we have already seen: determine solutions to complex electrical power systems and smart grid problems. So this is for an electrical engineering graduate of a UG program, right? Now, what are the characteristics of the action verb used to frame outcomes? See, PSO is an outcome, PEO is an objective, right? Why PEO is called an objective? The reason being, it is we do not know after what will really happen. So we are envisaging that they will be able to do that, right? While PSO is an outcome, okay, course outcome, that is also an outcome. So PSO is a learning outcome, or is a learning outcome on the day of graduation, right? So all outcomes should start with smart action verbs. Determine the solution. See, determine is an action verb. Fine. So determine the solution to complex electrical power systems and smart grid problems. So determine observable and measurable. Therefore, let me come to the characteristics of the action verb to be used to frame any outcome, whether it is PSO, whether it is course outcome, whether it is competency, whether it is practical outcome. They should be specific, they should be measurable, they should be attainable. Attainable means it should be, it is not that it is a continuous process. There should be an end point. That's the meaning of that, right? In time. And it should be reasonably challenging and it should be time bound. So if you remember the word smart, it will be easy for you to know whether these characteristics are specific, measurable, attainable, reasonably time bound, right? When I say specific, it is observable and measurable. So this should be in the back of your mind whenever you examine any learning outcome. If these 5 characteristics are not there, then that is not a good outcome. It is not very clear, it will not become very clear to the student what he or she will have to do after each level, at each exit level. Okay. Now, based on the SMART characteristic of identifying outcomes, can you tell the following statements are outcomes or not? So maybe you can write down in the chat box. Fine. Okay. Comprehend the performance of the belt chain mechanism in machines or in a machine. Is this an outcome? Maybe you can write in the chat box. No, very good. It is not an outcome because it is not observable, it is not measurable, it is not attainable because it is happening in the mind, right? It is, you cannot see it, you cannot measure it. Okay. Now, study the performance. Thank you, Ankur. Thank you. Study the performance of the cam floor mechanism in machines. Is this an outcome? No. Uday has said no. Vaishali has said no. Deepak has said no. Ankit has said no. Rupam. Okay, everybody is saying no. Very good. Because study is a process. It is not of a terminal nature. And it is taking place in the mind. You do not know whether the student is sleeping or he's just closed his eyes or whether he is reading. Even if he's looking at the screen or looking in the book, you do not know whether he's studying. Therefore, this is not an outcome. Very good. Now, next one. Appreciate the performance of the clutch and brake mechanism in machines. Is this an outcome? No. Good. I think Madhuri, Rahul, Rupam, yeah, lots of them. Doctor, yes. Thank you. Modi, Ajit, Sony, yeah, lots of them. So all of you agree that because appreciate is taking place in the head, in the brain, you cannot see it, observe it, and it is not observable and measurable. Learn the gyroscopic effect on machine working. No. Very good. Dhananjay has said no. Oh, good. Everybody agrees that this is not an outcome. Because learning is a process taking place, just like study. Learning is a process. It does not end somewhere. Oh, you cannot see it. You cannot observe it. Fine. Know the balancing principle to evaluate the working of a machine. Is this an outcome? Yes. Yes. Well, everybody is saying yes. Well, it is wrong. Know the balancing. Knowing is also taking place in the head. You cannot observe it. You cannot measure it. So knowing is not at all an outcome. Knowing is something which, how can you know? Knowing will be observable only when he states something describe something, explain something, names, lists, okay, calculates, determines, then only you know whether he knows the balancing principle. So knowing is not observable and measurable, therefore you cannot say it is an outcome. It is not an outcome. Okay, next one. Analyze the effect of vibration on machine elements. Yes, 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 yes. No, somebody said no. Uday Kumar said no. Anybody? Others? Yes, yes, yes. No, who said no? Just a minute. Yeah. 2-3 people said no. I am with those people who are telling no. Okay, Nitika has said no, and others. That I mean, because the screen is going very fast. Well, I am with those friends who have said no. Analyze is not at all a learning and any outcome, whether it is a course outcome, it is not at all an outcome, but it is very rampantly used all over India. Reason being, analyze is not observable, analyze is not measurable, and you cannot see what analysis is taking place inside the brain. But when after analyzing, the effect of analysis can be observed by some action verb. Like after analyzing, what can you do? Can you tell me? After analyzing a problem, what can the student do? Can you give me a action verb for the outcome of analysis? Evaluate. Very good. After analysis, you can evaluate. So by writing the word evaluate, that means he has analyzed. Any other word? Interpret. Very good. Interpret is another term which you can say because of analysis he is able to interpret. So interpret is observable and measurable. Evaluate term is observable and measurable. Solve. Very good. Solve is another term. Implement. Very good. Then explore is not an action verb because explore is just like learn, study. Explore means it is a continuous verb. It does not have a terminal nature. Please don't use the word explore, right? Implementation, not implementation, implement. See, there it should all be an action verb. Elaborate is not an action because elaborate you cannot really measure well. You can because elaborate is also taking place inside the head. Elaborate means what? Should he write? Should he list? Should he name? So elaborate word cannot be used. So out by analysis, you can, the action verb will indicate whether it is analysis for that whole sentence. Very good. I think you have done a good job. I'm happy at that many of you have understood. Those who have not understood, yeah, comprehend cannot be used. Comprehend is also taking place inside the head. You cannot measure it and observe it. Therefore, comprehend word cannot be used for a framing or formulating an outcome. Fine. Okay. Now, let us come to NBA curriculum model. In NBA curriculum model, you have the vision and the mission statements, the program educational outcomes, the program outcomes, and the program specific outcomes. And then suddenly the course outcomes comes. After program specific outcomes, the course outcomes and the topics come. This was a problem that has been there for a long time. Due to this big gap, that means from 2 to 3 PSOs, you have suddenly how many skill sets? Course outcomes are nothing but skill sets as called by the industry. And there are about 250 industry-oriented COs. And to check whether they are correct, it is very, very difficult. And to assess them also, the correctness of these was very difficult. So what happened was, what AICT did in 2018 was, it brought out the examination policy. And to tide over this lacuna, AICT's examination reform policy 2018 is available on the website, introduced the industry-specific jargon competency, which lies in between the PSOs and the COs, thereby helping us to check. I'm telling us, not you also. You means us also, to check the validity of the COs with respect to the industry need. That is, and this was a very welcome step that AICT brought about. And this is available in if you can download that policy, you can see this picture is there. And the competency term has helped us to bridge the gap between the COs and the program specific, because program specific outcomes too broad for the whole program, right? And I would say PSO, not only PO, the PSO is most important. The POs get, I would say, enshrined in the PSO, right? Therefore, the competency has solved the problem and helps us to make assessment more and more objective, more and more correct. So what is the competency? A competency is another exit level learning outcome required by the industry, which the student need to display related to that particular course. It means that, are you with me? Can you hear me and see me? See this PowerPoint? Okay, thank you. So the competency, you can see the industry over here. So in the industry, this graduate will have to display or exhibit the competency which you have written in your curriculum when he goes there. That is why competency is very, very important exit level learning outcome. Okay. So that means every course will have one exit level competency, exit level learning outcome, and that is called the competency. Right? Now, so due to this big gap, it is very difficult to check the correctness of the 250 odd COs. When I say 250 odd, that means about 40 to 50 courses are there in one program. For diploma, it will be around about 30 to 35. For UG programs, it will be to 45 to 50. And 5 in each means how much? That means 15 to 5. That means about 250 odd COs are there. How will you check its correctness? And that is where the 45 competencies, if there are 45 courses, there will be 45 competencies, and these are at the macro level. So you see, the PSOs are written at the global level, the competencies are written at the macro level, and the COs are written at the meso level, MESO, meso level. So this has really solved the problem for all of us to make assessment more and more objective, I would say valid and reliable. Now, NITR Bhopal has been working on the area of competency-based curriculum for the last more than 25 years. In 1997, we published a book. I was, fortunately, I was the author of that. And in 1997, we published that book. And this was implemented. The first competency-based curriculum or outcome-based curriculum in the country was implemented in 1997 in St. Xavier's Polytechnic, St. Xavier's Technical Institute, Mumbai. They were the first in the country to do that, and number of papers have been published on that. It is available on the internet as well, this experiment that was tried out. And later, of course, AICT came up, and then we took it up, and that is happening. NITR Bhopal has also published a competency bank in 2003, 2004, in 2003. So that means NITR Bhopal, we have been working with their competencies for the last maybe 25 years. And we have done a lot of projects for various states and various institutes, right? That's for just for an information. Now coming to this one. When a graduate goes to the interview to the industry, often the first question the interview generally asks is, what is their favorite course? Okay. I've been on the interview panels as well, so I know that. So he will answer something. Okay. Then the interview will ask, can you tell me in one sentence, what job can you do due to this course that you have studied so that your salary is justified? Then the student will, if the student tries to tell the COs, the course outcomes, he said, no, I want in one sentence which will include everything that you studied in that course. So if you want to express everything studied in that course to do a job, that is called a competency. Got it? The industry does not have time to listen to all your 5 or 6 COs. The industry wants one sentence, and the industry calls it competency. It indicates an integrated performance of all the 5 COs or a cluster of COs related to that course to do a macro at the macro level. Okay. Now, therefore, the competency is the foundation of the engineering curriculum. If you formulate and frame it wrongly, your entire curriculum will be faulty, affecting the employability of the students. That's what I'm more concerned. Rest of the things is okay. See, we are preparing our students for his career, for his livelihood. When I say employability, it is the livelihood of the students. So if we frame the competency wrongly, his entire livelihood is at stake, and we are responsible for that. Therefore, get it corrected right at the beginning of the curriculum planning stage itself. If this is not happening in the university, at your level, in the institute, you can formulate the competency and tell this, I am teaching the subject so that you will be able to do this. You tell that informally, unofficially. I will not say unofficially. You can say this is what it is all about. This course is being taught so that you can do this job in the industry. And that is nothing but the competency. Okay. So that is why AICT also introduced that. That's what I believe. So now what is the definition? So the competency, the foundational definition of the competency, this is one of the foundation definitions. It says, display the integrated performance of a cluster of COs related to the macro level industry job at the threshold level without wasting raw materials, damaging equipment, and hurting anyone. So this foundational definition, we both of us had introduced, and it has been accepted worldwide. Papers have been published on this and things like that. So this gives an indication of what a competency should be. Now, if you look at the competency curve or the learning, competency is also a learning outcome. Let me put it. Because he has to learn the outcome at the end of or he has to acquire that outcome at the end of the course which you are teaching. So this is an outcome. That means by learning one course, the student will be able to perform a job not at the expert level, at the threshold level. When I say threshold level, it means minimum acceptable level by the industry. Okay. And what is that minimum acceptable level? The other one is the PEO. Expert work standard or EWS level is not what the industry wants. The industry wants minimum acceptable level. And that is what we call a competency. So if one course, that means if there are 45 courses, there will be number of courses which will make up the program. Okay, so all the courses we will teach so that the student can perform at the threshold level in the industry. That is what a competency is all about. So within 5 to 10 years, he will be able to reach the PEO level. So this is the meaning of what is PEO and what is PSO. So when you teach all the courses at the competency level, then you would have, the student would have actually, yeah, can you please repeat that? It vanished very fast. What I couldn't read that. Can you please write down in the chat box what you were telling again? Okay. So when it comes, I will, because it comes in one corner of the screen, therefore I'm not able to do it fast, and it vanishes also fast. It says that, so do we get the P point? Yeah, you will be, I think I'll pass it on to AICT. They may give it to you. Fine. But I would like that you listen to because these are not available on the internet. Let me put it. These are based on our experience we have been doing with the Indian engineering education system. Let me put it again. All I'm talking is all about based on the Indian education system. Okay, thank you for listening. So you see, when you teach 45 competencies at the threshold level, then you would have attained the program specific outcome. This is what you should remember. Fine. Okay. So, because these are based on the researches that we have done over the past several years, myself and Dr. S.K. Gupta. Fine. And we have implemented also. We are not talking in the air. Okay. Now, how to measure the correctness of the competency? Now, you would also ask whether my competency which I have written or framed is correct or not. Okay. Now, look at this. First of all, you write one competency and then see whether this is it a single statement required at the workplace starting with a single action verb. If it is not an outcome, reframe with a single action verb. There should not be more than one single verb. Then, does it express an outcome to do a macro level job for which he or she will get the salary? Listen, competency is a industry oriented statement for which he will get a salary. Let me put it very clearly. If it is not written at that level, that means it must be written at a lower level or a meso level or more at a micro level. Reframe it. If it is written at the macro level to do a macro level job, next question is, does the macro level job indicate the solution of a broadly defined problem? This is for a diploma holder. But for a UG program, it will be complex defined problem. Okay, complex problem. Okay, this is what I would like to say. So does for a diploma holder, you will read as broadly defined problem. For a UG program, you will in the statement should be, does the macro level job indicate the solution of a complex problem? Okay, if not, it may be a trivial problem. Is the statement an integrated performance of the PROs? When I say PROs, I'm talking about the practical outcomes and the 5 to 6 learning units of that course. You may call the units are learning units are nothing but modules, which some of you call, but it is those 5 broad modules or learning units, right? So that means your competency statement should include the integrated performance of the practicals and the learning units of that course. If all these 4 questions are yes, 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 then the statement is a competency related to that course. Okay? Fine. So now this is a criteria which we have developed. Next one is state. Now I'm going to ask you a question. State the macro level job a UG student can do after a course on theory of machines based on the above criteria and the definitions discussed thus far. So, if there are any mechanical people, can you please write down in the chat box? State the competency for a theory of machines. Okay. The student will get the salary in the industry only for doing jobs, not for the knowledge inside his brain, but for applying the knowledge for doing the course related job that is observable and measurable. See, the competency is that statement for which he will get his salary or her salary. So the competency of a course of theory of machines would be evaluate the performance of various types of mechanical drives in machines. So this is the competency which satisfies all the above criteria. See, evaluate is a word which is a smart action verb. Smart. It is specific, it is measurable, it is attainable, okay? It is reasonably challenging, and it is time bound. Okay, therefore, this is a example of a competency for theory of machines course. Like this, for every course, you will have to formulate a competency so that will help you in checking next the correctness of your COs. Okay. Therefore, what is a competency? A competency is a macro level task stated by the industry, and it consists of subtasks which you call COs by the academia, stated at the meso level task encompassing all three domains of learning. Okay. So what are these domains? So there will be meso level CO1 related to one subtask of the competency, meso level CO2, and the CO5 or CO6. So this is what a competency is all about. Now, similarly, the student will get salary in the industry only for doing also the subtasks, which we academicians call as course outcomes, required for doing the macro level jobs that are observable and measurable. Now let us see the criteria to identify the correctness of a course outcome. Is the stated course outcome industry oriented, beginning with an action verb? If yes, if not, reframe it to be observable and measurable. Next one, is the CO a subtask of the competency required by the industry? No, then reframe it so that it becomes a subtask of the competency that you have done it. That means you are mapping with the competency. That is how you are checking whether the CO is correct or not. Does the CO reflect the integrated performance of micro level outcomes related to the three learning domains? When I say I'm talking three learning domains, I'm talking of cognitive domain, practical or the psychomotor domain, and the affective domain. Right? So reframe, if not, reframe the CO to integrate. It is an integrated performance of all the three domains. This is to be very, very, very carefully understood. Next, if yes, does the CO reflect the practical outcomes related to the unit outcomes or module outcomes and the unit related topics? That means, does all your, which you call syllabus basically, the topics, the unit outcomes, related, that means the theory, the related to the theory, okay, all that, including the practicals. So the integrated performance of the practicals, the unit outcomes, and the related topics is a CO. The integrated performance is very important. That's why I've underlined that. Remember that it is an integrated performance. It is not a unit outcome. It is not a head knowledge level only. It is an integrated, it is a subtask. If that happens, the statement is a CO of the course reflecting the integrated performance of micro level outcomes, indicating a unit group of related topics. Okay. So now let us examine some examples. State the macro level job a student can do after a course on theory machines. This we have already seen. Evaluate the performance of the various types of mechanical drives and machines. This we have seen. So now we will examine whether the COs written to match this competency is correct or not for that course. Interpret the belt chain mechanism in a machine. Is this a correct outcome? CO? Will you do this in the industry? No. Well, it is correct. Reason being, this fellow, this is an industry oriented. Every course outcome is industry oriented. Okay. So he will be given problems where he will have to interpret whether the belt shape mechanism is correct or not. So this is an example of a correct CO. Next one is interpret the cam flower mechanism in a machine. Again, for evaluating, he has to interpret, these are the subtasks. He has to interpret the cam floor also. Right? Evaluate the clutch and brake mechanism in machine. See, evaluate term has come, evaluate. This is a subtask of this for full competency, right? Next one is evaluate the gyroscope effect of the machine. Okay. So whatever was earlier written, I have now done it. And these are So the earlier ones which I had shown you, now we have converted that into course outcomes. Now, see, all those criteria that we talked about, the action verbs that is used over here, they are all observable, measurable, attainable, reasonably challenging, and time bound. Okay, so interpret. So all these, when the integrated performance of all this will make the student competent, or this competency statement can be achieved or attained. Okay, so this is how COs are written. This is what and this is how you can check whether COs. So without the competency, you cannot check the correctness of the CO. That is why AICTE has brought in the term competency. Otherwise, you will not know whether you're doing it correctly or not. Therefore, my friends, please frame competencies for at one sentence competency for every course of yours, and then with that as the basis and the criteria which I have discussed with you, check whether the COs are correct or not. It should all be observable and measurable. Okay. Okay. So the foundational definition of an is COs are industry-oriented subtasks of the competency that are to be displayed. Let me tell you again. They have to be displayed. They have to be exhibited as an integrated performance of several micro-level outcomes related to the three domains of learning. What does that mean? This is what it means. That means the course outcome will include practical outcomes or practical exercise in the laboratory, the cognitive domain outcomes related to the head, this is related to the hand, and the affective domain related to the heart. So all three put together only will make the course outcome. Right? So this is what I have to say regarding course outcomes. Now, therefore, a competency will, these are macro level tasks, while the course outcomes are subtasks or skill set. Okay. Industry calls the skill set or subtask, and we academicians call the skill set or subtask as a course outcome. I hope you have understood. See, the industry is interested only in the competency and the course outcomes. Let me put it. The rest of the things is for academicians, how we do it. Okay. So these pictures, I have tried to visualize it in this way so that you can, it will be helpful for you to remember. That's why I've drawn these figures, how they are interrelated, how they are subtasks, how competency includes what, how course outcomes includes what. So what is the micro level outcome? So practical outcomes, cognitive domain, affective domain outcomes are called micro level outcomes, right? So this one, that means every course outcome will have a practical outcome, will have which is a micro level outcome, cognitive domain outcome, which is also a micro level outcome, affective domain outcome, which is also a micro level outcome. So all these are learning outcomes. So learning outcome is the common term for all these outcomes. So micro level outcomes are subsets of the industry oriented CO related to the three domains of learning. That is practical outcomes, unit outcomes, or module outcomes, you may call it, but unit outcomes is a better term. That's why I'm using the word UOs, and affective domain outcomes. Because module has a different connotation, has a different meaning universally. We may call it modules, but universally they are learning units rather than modules. Therefore, we prefer, wherever NITR Bhopal has been working, we have used the word learning units and not modules. Okay. So what is a course? A course is a collection of practical outcomes, cognitive domain outcomes, and affective domain outcomes, and related to a body of knowledge. What is the body of knowledge? Magnetism is a body of knowledge, right? Electricity is a body of knowledge. See, when a body of knowledge is one whole from where we take out chunks of information and we call it a course. Okay, there's not much time to discuss on that. So we try to find out what are the exit level outcomes. PSOs are exit level outcome, learning outcome. COs are also exit level learning outcomes. And competency is also an exit level learning outcome. In the classroom session, you have the cognitive domain outcomes or unit outcomes and the laboratory sessions. So we as academicians we will be developing this in the classroom, while the integrated performance of all this makes the CO and the competency. So the sky is the limit of what you want to achieve. When there is a will, there is a way. And this is so thank you for your presence, attention, and valuable time. And since we have one more, one fast, what are the problems and assessment that before we close? I'll just take 10 more minutes before we close. Maybe we'll come back late so that I'll leave you late so that we can come back late. Let me go for the next one. Just a minute. Can you see me? Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you. I'll just unshare. I want to go for the other one. Just hold on a bit. Madam, how do I go to the next slide? I'm not able to do that. Can you please guide me? Regarding what, sir? I want to go to the next PPT. How do I do that? I should stop sharing, or how is it? You want to share something else? Yeah, yeah. I've just finished one and minimize this PPT. Okay, okay, just a minute. I minimize this PPT. Okay. Yeah. And then how do I go to the next PPT? Can you just open the other one? Oh, okay. Just by opening the other one, I'll be able to do it? Yes. From my, okay, just a minute. Okay. Thank you, madam. Okay, just a minute. Okay, okay. Thank you, madam. Okay. I think I'll go ahead. Yeah. I'll just take 10 more minutes before I leave them for a break. Yeah. Okay, thank you. Because we started late, we lost a little bit of time. I'll just take 10 minutes and then we go ahead. This is important for you. Can you hear me and listen? See me also. Okay, thank you. Now, outcome of this session is suggest remedies for the present problems that is ailing the present assessment system in engineering education, right? In the last slide, we have seen to establish the connect between the industry and the curriculum or the education system. That I think we have fairly achieved that outcome. So in this, suggest remedies for present problems. Okay, how to prepare the students to be job ready? For this to happen, our entire outcome-based curriculum, OBC, should focus on outcome-based curriculum planning and design, practice OBTL. I'm using the word OBTL, outcome-based teaching learning to enhance employability, assess HOTS. When I say HOTS, it is higher order thinking skills of revised Bloom's taxonomy rather than LOTS, that is lower order thinking skills, which is usually the practice in most tests and examinations in India. And the next one is encouraging the students to do real life or near to real life projects, right from micro projects at course level to capstone projects at program level. Then next is test items related to real life or near to real life situations. If these things we do, then maybe stands for, I couldn't get it. It vanished. Okay. Sorry, I could not read that because your message vanished very fast. If you can copy paste that, I'll try to read it. Okay. What you say? Yes, stands to CO stands for course outcome. Yes, CO stands for course outcome. OBC stands for outcome based curriculum. Okay. Because the messages are vanishing fast, I can't read it that fast. Sorry for that. Maybe at the end, maybe we'll have a little more discussion. Okay, outcome-based curriculum. So all these 5 things or 6 things that you can do that will help them to for the students to become job ready. Okay, OBTL is outcome-based teaching learning, right? So the test items related to real life should be, I'm using the word, okay. So I'm using the word test item rather than questions. Reason being, in the question, when a question is that which starts with 5 W's and H. When, what, why, how. While in outcome-based curriculum, questions should not start with 5 W's and H. It should start with action verbs. Therefore, the term uses test items world over universally. So we may call it a question paper. Earlier that was, so that term, that is a terminology now. So test items related to real life or near to real life situations have to be used. Then only we will be able to prepare the students to be job ready. If unemployability is to be reduced in India, the absence is then absence of table of specifications in most of the curricula across India is not there. Assessment related to all the 3 domains has to be done. Most examinations assess memory, not knowledge. Easy to pass and easy to score questions have become the norm in most assignments and tests. Marking schemes are often vague. Unnecessary kindness is shown by teachers when awarding marks or grades to students. And if unemployability has to be reduced, these things have to be taken, addressed. Okay, and liberal marking, that is unnecessary kindness as well. Okay. Now, what are the other things? Only a small sample of the curriculum is assessed. This is another problem. Examinations don't give constructive feedback to the students. Last minute question paper setting, malpractices, leakage of question paper contents, unfair practices during examination. Assessors don't give enough time for assessment. Don't get, it should not be give, it should be get. Chances of injustice are there. Delays in assessment is there. So these are some of the issues that we are facing. Academic merits losing charm at job interviews. High merit students often perform poorly in career. No scope of comparison of students or institution. Distinction is meaningless if 30% students get it. The word distinction is meaningless if 30% students or more get it. No thorough analysis of examination results and implementation of the remedies. Insufficient involvement of professionals in examination system. Insufficient involvement of industries in examination system. So this we have already seen. I'm just rushing through. The 3 domains of learning are to be addressed. This we will be seeing how it can be done. Assessment of viewers has to take place. Presently, the more assessment is more on lots, that is lower order thinking skills. It should go to HOTS or higher order thinking skills. Assessment of PROs or practicals, extremely weak and arbitrary assessment. Practicals are for verification of theory. That's happening most of the time. Assess the industry required skills using Dewey's taxonomy, using checklists, rating scales, and rubrics. This we will be looking into tomorrow. Then affective domain outcomes should be assessed. They are not being assessed at all now. Assess industry required outcomes using Krathwohl's taxonomy, which is related to affective domain outcomes. So affective domain is also equally important. Project work assessment, it is extremely weak and liberal. Often only the end result of the project report is assessed, while continuous assessment is required to check the integration of practical outcomes, unit outcomes, and affective domain outcomes using various assessment tools. If this can happen, project work would be better assessed. The subjectivity to the questions framed is quite high. This can be reduced by using action verbs, use more short answer questions, and so on. Avoid using 5 Ws and H in question paper. The use of MCQs for assessing the outcomes may be successful only if and only if strict invigilation is there, highly computerized and automated, negative marking is there, questions are jumbled and the adjacent students do not get the same sequence of questions. The answer keys are also jumbled. The good question banks are prepared at all RBT levels. When I'm talking of RBT, it is revised Bloom's taxonomy. When HOTS level questions are asked, which is very rare, and it should be done. Therefore, avoid the use of MCQs in OBE. That's my opinion. Generally suitable for OBE is generally, MCQs are generally suited for selection or rejection test, which we call it, when thousands of students are taking the test and examination. Copying and malpractices are more in MCQs, encourages guessing, kills the communication skills. Therefore, especially in UG and diploma programs, it should be more of MCQs should be less and less. Otherwise, the other things which we talked about, computerization, jumbling of questions, jumbling of answers, all those things should be taken care of. Then use of ICT will help in the design of questions, instant accurate assessment with constructive comments, remote monitoring with transparency, self-assessment, self-improvement. So this analysis of results, so ICT should be used for examinations as much as possible. Therefore, need for introspection, this is the last slide I would say. Does your evaluation system facilitate consistent improvement of student performance? For whom is the current evaluation system built? Students, recruiters, or just academicians? Does your evaluation system serve any meaning to the recruiters, industries, and organizations? Why are we not open to replicating systems that have been proven in the US and Europe, etc.? Therefore, secret of designing good tests, last one, you have to frame unambiguous and specific COs and their associated practical outcomes, unit outcomes, and affective domain outcomes, starting with single observable measurable verbs of terminal nature. So this is the secret of designing good question papers, which we will be looking at. So I stop here because I said I'll take 10 minutes. I think I've taken 15 minutes. Sorry for that. Before we break. So it's 12:15 now, or past, just passing plus 15. We will come back at what time? Yes. Any questions that you have? 12:30? 15 minutes? Is 15 minutes enough for all of you? If that is the case, then I'll be there. Or 12:40? Okay, thank you. Okay, we'll come back at 12:45 then, right? Since we are breaking here, we'll come back at 12:45. Thank you. ആ പറ. കാര്യം മാറി. Morning, good afternoon, Professor Gupta.
Good afternoon, sir. I was enjoying your session.
Good afternoon, all of you. I think, can we start the session? I think we can start the session. I think how many people are there? Let me see. Yeah, 114 have joined. I think, yeah, it's an increasing. We'll start. Good afternoon to all of you once more. Yeah. So how to prepare the students to be job ready? I'm repeating the slide. Redundancy is one thing which every teacher should do, because that helps to cement the learning or to ground the learning in the students. So similarly for this session also, I'm starting with this. The first thing is outcome-based curriculum. Can you hear me and see the slide?
We can hear you, but we are not able to see this slide.
Can you hear me? Can you see the slide?
The slide you have not shared, we can hear you.
Can you hear me or see the slides, please? Can any of the participants?
Professor Joshua, you are audible, but you have not shared this slide. Your presentation is not visible.
Thank you, Priyanka madam, for giving the share privilege. Okay. Yes. So, yeah. Can you hear me? Can you see me? Okay, thank you. Okay, so features, applicability, and techniques of framing good questions, right? So we go with this. For this to happen, our entire OBC should focus on outcome-based curriculum, planning and design, practice outcome-based teaching learning, that is OBTL, to enhance employability, assess HOTS or higher order thinking skills rather than LOTS, which is lower order thinking skills, which is usually the practice in most tests and examinations in India. Test items related to real life or near to real life situations. This is most important. This is not happening in our present question papers in most of the universities and institutions in India. And for OB, this is the key. We have to give real life or near to real life situations so that the students are job ready or they are employable. So this is the opening slide. This is the thought which I wanted to share before we go to the following slides. Now, how is an OBE successful? It is successful only when the foundation is very clear. That is, all the learning outcomes to be displayed by a student at every exit level are to be explicitly stated at every stage of the OBC. Right? So this is, I hope you can see me. And here, okay. Yeah. Okay. Just a minute. Yeah. Can you see? Can you hear me and see me? Is my slide clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Let me see. I'm told that the slide is not moving. Is the slide moving now?
No, sir. No, sir.
Okay, let me see what's happening. Okay. Okay. Can you see the full share?
Yes, sir. Now you are
audible. Is the slide moving?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, fine. Okay, we have seen that. Just a minute, let me minimize this. Okay. So the test items related to real life or near real life is very, very important. That has to be seen by you, right? Okay. Now, the foundation of the for us OBE to be successful, the foundation has to be very, very clear or has to be on sound footing. That's what I said, the foundation. All the learning outcomes to be displayed by each student at every exit level are to be explicitly stated at every stage of the OBC. When I say at exit level means CO is one exit level, competency is another exit level, the Practical learning outcome or practical outcome is one exit level. Unit outcome is another exit level. Affective domain outcome is also an exit level. So all this have to be very clearly exhibited, right? Next one is, once the foundation is clear, then it is much easier for you to undertake the OBTL or outcome-based teaching learning. And once you have done this also, then it is much easier for you to do the assessment. So the curriculum is the foundation. So if your curriculum needs to be improved, please do that so that it will help you in assessing the students properly as well, because we are talking about examination reforms. And that reform will take place only when you start implementing outcome-based assessment. So, as I said earlier also, you have to frame unambiguous specific COs and the associated practical outcomes and the unit outcomes and the affective domain outcomes, starting with a single observable and measurable verbs of terminal nature. This is again, I'm repeating, this is the secret of designing good test items and questions. This we have already seen, that a competency consists of number of COs, okay? And let's see now how this goes about. Evaluate the performance of various types of mechanical drives and machine. What was this? Do you remember? You can put in the chat box. Yes, this is the competency of theory of machines. So I'm taking this as an example for you to further go on. Now check the correctness of the COs. This we have already seen. Interpret the performance. That means there are 6 modules or units, learning units, and for each of the 6 units we have done this, right? Okay. Because that you have to remember for the further discussions that we are going to have. So we are going to take one CO now. That is, which CO? We are going to take interpret the performance of the belt chain mechanism in the machine. And we have to assess that, right? For assessing the first CO, what we have to do? Let's see. So we are now going to find out a CO is the integral performance of the practical outcome, cognitive domain outcome, and the affective domain outcome, right? So now we are going to see what does the CO contain. So for that competency, we first take the first CO, that is, interpret the performance of the belt chain mechanism in machines. Now, what are the practical outcomes required for this? Let's see that. That is, first one is calculate the drive slip of a given belt chip mechanism. This practical is conducted in the mechanical engineering laboratory of mechanical engineering program, UG mechanical engineering program. Okay. Another practical outcome, there can be more for this CO only. I'm talking of only this CO, CO1. So for CO1, one is calculate the drive slip of the given belt drive mechanism. PRO2 or practical outcome 2 is determine the coefficient of friction of the given material. Now for this, what is the underpinning unit outcomes required? That you have to derive. Okay. That is, it will be 1A because this is CO1 and I am naming it as unit 1 of or module 1. Okay. Unit outcome 1A. It means select the type of drive required for the given mechanism. So isn't this now matching with the performance of the belt chain mechanism? You see that? Okay. So by performing this experiment, you can interpret this. But for performing this experiment or the practical, the student needs to learn this, how to select the type of drive required. So you teach the theory for selecting the type of drive. Next one is evaluate the effect of the friction for the given type of drive. Okay. Now, for evaluating that, what you'll give some, you'll give a numerical or you may give a problem and ask him or ask her to find out whether it is correct or not. When you say evaluate, that means he has to pass a judgment telling them whether it's okay or not, right? So this is one. The next one is determine the power transmission in the given belt drive. Okay, so what will you do to develop this outcome? You will again give a problem, okay, or a numerical, and you will ask the student to do that. What is the next one? Determine the power transmission in the okay, this is repetition. Okay, I'm sorry for that. It should not be there. Okay, just a minute. And show this is wrong. Okay, this will be D then. D, fine. Okay. So by teaching the student in the classroom, see, unit outcomes are those which are taught in the classroom, right? Let me go ahead. So when you teach all this thing in the classroom, the student is able to perform the practical. Now, what happens in most of the Indian universities is that you teach the theory and you try to fit the practical, but that is now how curriculum is developed. Curriculum is developed for this CO, or this subtask, which the student has to do in the industry. He has to do certain practicals in the industry also, right? And that practical, we are bringing it into the laboratory or the workshop. And for this practical outcome, what is the unit outcomes or what is the theoretical outcomes, underpinning outcomes, I'll put it, required. So by teaching all this, the student will be able to perform all this and he will be able to perform this. So when we develop the curriculum, you go from the competency to the CO. From the CO, you develop the practical outcome. And from the practical outcome, you find out what is the theory required. You teach the theory. Right? So that is how you develop the unit outcomes. But when you teach, what you do, you first teach this, then he does the practical, and when these two put together, he is able to interpret the performance. Did you get it? Now, once you have developed this, you will be able to formulate certain types of test items. So for UO1B, what will you do? You will give a numerical. To test UO1C, you will give another numerical. For developing UO1D, you may give one case study. So like that, you will have to give real life examples so that the students becomes familiar with what he or she has to do in the industry. That's the basic. That is how curriculum is developed. Okay, and that is how you have to develop the questions that is required. Okay, now similarly, you will have to do for CO2 also. You will have to find out the practical outcomes. You will have to find out the unit outcomes. And for each CO, you will have to do this exercise first before you start framing questions. Because this is the curriculum. Based on the curriculum, you will start making the questions, or framing the questions, or formulating the questions. I hope you understand. You are with me, right? Okay. So you have that means because it is CO2, the next practical will be practical 3. The next will be practical 4, and then what will be 2A. Now, because this is CO2. I am writing the unit outcome as UO2A. Can you please repeat that? It just vanished because I'm in the full slide mode. What did you say, Uday? You said something. Follower as, yes, okay, you're following it, fine. So UO2A is, because it is 2, we are doing that. Okay. And then you come to UO2B and C and D and E, and like that it goes on. So develop this and then give the, similarly you do for all the COs. But This will happen only if your COs are correct. If your competency is wrong, the COs will be wrong. If the COs are wrong, the PROs will not be fully matching with the competency. Your UOs will not be matching with the competency. Therefore, it is utmost important for you to first formulate the competency and then check for the correctness of the COs. That's very, very important for your assessment to be right. That's why I have been concentrating more on this. Fine. Now, what all we have done now, we will just have a look. The entire thing that we have done so far. You have seen that PEOs aims are the PEOs. From the PEOs, you have the PO and the PSOs. That is goals, we call it. They are at the global level. Aims or PEOs are at the universal level. Then you have the competency, which is at the macro level. That means for goals, for the PSOs, there may be more than one or PSOs. There will be competency will be there. I think there is one arrow over here as well. I think I forgot to put that. Maybe I'll add it. Yeah. Just a minute. The entire model we have been, yeah. Okay. Okay. Let's see about that. Okay. So this is what, can you hear me? I think you can hear me. Yeah. This competency 1, competency 2, and it goes on. So you have competencies 5. If it's a UG program, that means there are 45 courses. And if it's a PG, it's a diploma program, it may be 30, 35 courses. So there will be 45 competencies or 30 competencies or 35 competencies, whatever. And from each competency, there will be COs. There will be COs can be 5 or 6. They are at the meso level, as we have seen now. They are subtasks, therefore they are meso level. So the industry is interested only in these. This is what we have to say. Okay. So so you have to assess this also. How is this going to happen? That's the basic issue. Question. In order to assess this, okay, now I'll come to that but after we show you the entire slide. So from each CO, we have seen the practical outcomes are derived. Okay. And for those practical outcomes, what are the cognitive domain outcomes or unit outcomes or module outcomes that are required? And for that, what are the effective outcomes required? And that is how the topics and subtopics are done. Now, we as academicians were interested in only this, or we are doing this most of the time, right? While the industry is interested as only in this. That's the basic issue. So when you do this, how will you assess the course outcomes and competency? There's only one way of doing it, and that is by introducing micro projects in every course. A micro project is an integration. A micro project is an integration of all or many of the COs, I will put it, right? This we have already experimented in Maharashtra as a whole state. So all of you need to introduce micro projects in order to assess the COs and the competency. That is the basic issue regarding, if you know, because finally in the industry, they have to, the integrated performance of all this will only be able, he will be able to perform in the industry well, successfully. Okay. So similarly, for the whole course structure, this is the single course model for all. When you develop for the 45 courses, all the entire curriculum is developed. And that is how the outcome-based curriculum is developed. So you develop from the top to bottom. When you develop, when you teach, you go from bottom to top, right? So this is how, this is a typical outcome-based curriculum model for various types of LOs. So the affective domain outcome is one LO, The unit outcome is another learning outcome. PROs are, or practical outcomes, are another types of learning outcome. Course outcome is another type of learning outcome. Competency is another type of learning outcome. PSO is also learning. So learning outcome is a common terminology for all these types of exit outcomes. Okay. See, the practical outcome is the exit outcome at the laboratory level. Okay. While the unit outcome is the exit outcome at the classroom level. This is what you have to understand. The competency is the exit outcome at the course level, while the PSO is the exit outcome at the program level. That is why we call it as a global outcome, macro level outcome, and meso level outcome, and the micro level outcomes. So practical outcomes, unit outcomes, affective domain outcomes, they are all micro level outcomes, or MILOs, to make it short. I hope you have a good look at this model, because that will give you the total picture of a whole program as well as of a single course. If this is clearly done, you can develop your questions, very good questions. This is what I have to, the USP, or the unique selling point of outcome-based curriculum, is your curriculum should be right. So if it is that, if there is improvement, please do that before you can make a good question paper. Okay. Now, the next thing is, once you have done this, many of the universities in India don't have the table of specifications for the preparing good question paper. This has to come in every curriculum. So if you see this is based upon revised Bloom's taxonomy, and if there are 5 modules or units, okay, the teaching hours are given, and the unit outcomes are, and the questions that should be prepared for this is given. And it should be more than, it should have more of, I would say, application level questions. This is what I want to say, right? If you look at this also, application and apply and above, there are more number of outcomes. And your question should also be more of apply and above level outcomes. This has to, so table of specifications is the blueprint for preparing any question paper and checking whether you are on the right track. Okay. So this is for UG programs. Okay. It can be, the thumb rule is 1 credit means about 16 hours. So if you have 4 credits, it will be 16 4s are 64, that is 64 hours. So roughly it is like that. So credit-based courses, we call it. Okay. Some universities take 1 credit as 15. Some universities take 1 credit as 16 also. But generally, 16 is the more appropriate value to be given for each credit. This is for a diploma program. In diploma program, because they have to they have to solve only broadly defined problems. So therefore, we go up to apply and above, we call it. They may go to analysis and evaluation as well, but at least up to apply level, they have to make the outcomes and then prepare the question paper as well. Here also, you will see, you will have more of, it is about 70% is on apply level. So your question paper should have at least 70 to, I would say, at least 70% apply level questions should be there. Now, coming to the types of questions. Okay. All of you are quite aware of all this. I don't have to give much details about it, much explanation about it. You have the select type of questions and the supply type of questions, right? In select type questions, you have the true, false, or alternative response, you call it, matching type, multiple choice, multiple response, assertion, reason, and things like that. And in supply type, you have completion type, short answer type, In long answer, you have the conventional essay, the restricted essay, the structured question, you have interpretive, structured essay, design work, and questions like that. So you see, on the left side, the subjectivity decreases, while on this side, the subjectivity increases. But you can reduce the subjectivity depending upon the way you prepare the questions. That's what can be done. Okay. Now, when you look at the pen and paper tests, that is for the classroom level or cognitive level domain, you can have verbal as well as visual questions, which you are already doing. You give circuit diagrams and things like that. Then you have supply type questions and you can have selection type questions. You can word and graphics processing of the computer has enabled us to introduce visual questions as well. So this can be done, and many of you are doing as well, I'm sure. Now in select type of questions, you have multiple choice, multiple response, and all those things. In supply type, you have completion, short answer, structured, restricted response, and essay type. We will look into some of these, all of these as well, I would say. The supply type of questions, students are free to supply the answers depending on the scope and the type of the question asked. Reduce the subjectivity of such questions while designing the questions. That's what we'll have to do. Students in the select type, the students are required to select and recognize the correct or the best answer from the number of proposed alternative answers. Only one alternative out of the proposed alternatives is correct. These are also called objective items because the scope of the answer is well defined by only one correct answer that is to be selected. This select type is not very much conducive for semester end examination. It is difficult to formulate such questions to test higher level RBT. I'm talking RBT means revised Bloom's taxonomy level. Hellos. So suitable for online and offline testing, record keeping is automated, saves times of teachers required for assessment of supply questions. So that is one advantage. You can have a bank of questions or question bank from where you can draw it, right? It gives freedom to students to attempt test whenever they are ready for it, when it is select type questions. Okay. Comments on MCQs. In case of 4-option test, student can probably score 25% marks just by responding blindly, known as blind guessing. And hence it is advised to have negative marking if these questions are to be used in high-stake exams. Students may help each other in responding to these questions, and hence these questions should not be used unless there is a provision for tight vigil in the examination room. Intelligent guessing is possible if such questions are not framed properly. To avoid this, special care is to be needed as discussed below. Requires a choice to be made from several alternative responses. Example, an electric transformer can be used. This is called the STEM. Stores electricity, converts electrical energy into mechanical energy, change AC to DC. These are called the distractors or plausible answers. PLAUSIBLE. Plausible distractors are called. Distractors or plausible distractors. And increase the AC voltage. And this is called the key, which all of you know that. So we have for every multiple choice, we have the STEM, we have the distractors, and we have the key. Let's see now this example. The most suitable method of joining aluminum sheeting and the tube is by means of the key argon is C. Okay. Now, another example. None of the following is a vector quantity except dash dash dash. Okay. An example of confusing and ambiguous statement STEM. The use of double negatives makes the understanding of the STEM difficult for the student. Okay, double negative should be avoided. Identify the statement that should not be done to cross a road. Okay, there are 4 distractors, again 4 options. The negative in the stem and the option C do not match grammatically. So that means grammar should be correct. The language is also tricky and creates comprehension difficulties. Therefore, you should be careful. Grammar wise also it should be correct. The stem should pose a definite problem by itself. The stem should generally be positive. Negatively stated stem should be used only when some significant allows are required to its use. Whenever a negative is used, it should be emphasized by using capitals or underlining. Okay, these are some of the guidelines for preparing MCQs. Double negatives should not be used in the stem. The use of words like what would you do, what do you consider, etc. must be avoided, because then it becomes opinions. It is not an opinion that you're asking, you're asking the correct answer. Therefore, questions what would you do and what do you consider should not be avoided. The option should be made grammatically consistent with the stem. The similarity of the terms in the stem and the key should be avoided. That's another guideline. Ensure that the item is technically accurate. I think that most of you do that. Options should generally be similar in length. Okay. The tendency to make the key longer than the other options must be checked. Otherwise, the students can guess it very easily. More chances of guessing are there. There must be only one correct or clearly the best answer in each question. All distractors must be plausible and attractive. Specific determiners which provide clues to the test-wise students must be eliminated, right? Numerical problems should have simple numbers, avoiding complicated calculations as far as possible. Numericals option should be written in an ascending or descending order. You should not write 5, 3, 1, 2 like that. It should be either be 1, 2, 3, 4 or 3, 4 or 4, 3, 2, 1. Something. It should be in the ascending or descending order. The option none of the above and all of the above must not be used. Why? Reason being, when you are computerizing and we are jumbling the distractors, this distractor will not work. Therefore, none of the above and all of the above must be avoided at all costs. Use of phrases like chief advantage, main advantage should be used with care. You can use it, but use with care, not often. Merits of multiple choice, you already know that. Reliability in scoring, multiple choice, I think can test some complex learning outcomes. Limitations, considerable skill is required to prepare good questions. It takes time. Probability of students to guess correct answers is often there. A variation of MCQs is multiple response questions. Okay. In a situation where we find that one or more than one response are correct, we can use multiple response format. This is one example of that. The drawbacks of using vernier caliper for measuring tooth thickness are 2 separate settings for each gear, wear in the caliper jaws, and measuring accuracy limited to that of a vernier scale, right? Now, choose the correct option. Okay, so actually, your question is here. A, B, C, D is the question. The others are options, right? 1 and 2 only, or 2 and 3 only, or 3 and 1 only, or 4, all the 3. This one should be avoided, all the 3. Reason being, when you're jumbling, this will be a problem. So all of the 3, above the 3, this should be avoided. This is what I wanted to show. This is not a good example. Okay. Possible to construct valid tests with these types of questions because they can sample complete content at a desired level of abilities, multiple response ones. To construct good questions of these types at higher levels of abilities require sufficient skill, ingenuity, and thorough subject content knowledge. It is also difficult to find plausible distractors which will avoid verbal clues in the question. So this problem is there. Such questions have more reliability because the probability of guessing the correct answer blindly is less as compared to true-false items. Now coming to true-false items, this I'll just skip because we hardly use it. In outcome-based, it is as far as possible, try to avoid it because trivial remember level questions could be used for that. I will put it like that. And they generally test lower order thinking skills. Thinking is a problem, and all those things are there. So I'll just skip this a little bit. Then you have the matching type, where you have two lists, which I will also skip this because this we are not going to do much on this. However, if you have a matching type, you should have more than, if the list A is 6, list B should be more than 6, the matching ones, so that it becomes a little more higher order thinking skill can be developed. So guidelines for writing matching type in a single matching exercise, only homogeneous material should be used. An unequal number of responses and premises should be included in matching type, and students must be instructed that the response may be used once or more than once or not at all. The list of responses should be arranged in a logical sequence. Okay, and the basis of the basis of matching the responses and the responses should be indicated in the beginning of the question itself. So I'll stop here and let me go to the other one. I'll minimize this. Yeah. Can you see this Excel sheet? Okay, let me see that. Can you see it now? Yes. Okay. This is this will be your assignment. I would say task that you have to submit. Just for your information, you will have to submit 10 multiple choice of the revised Bloom's taxonomy, which you are already familiar with. Okay, and this will be given to you through AICTE. I will be giving this. So you have to make at least 5 multiple choice question in this Excel sheet and submit it. 2 analyze level, 2 evaluate level, and 2 create level. Any of the, from anywhere you can do that. And to do that, I will be taking the session on revised Bloom's taxonomy, right? And so be attentive to that. Okay, that's what I just wanted to show. Okay, now I'll go to that one. Okay. Yeah, formulating. Yeah. So what you will have to do is choose. Can you see the PowerPoint? No. Okay. Let me see. Okay, let me go. Yeah. Can you see the PowerPoint now?
Yes, sir.
Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Can you see the PowerPoint?
Yes, sir, we are able to see it.
Okay. I think now you can see it. Okay. Can you see the PowerPoint now? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
In revised Bloom's taxonomy of the cognitive domain, the first one is, this is the waste taxonomy, we're not going to that. Yeah. The first one is retrieve the relevant knowledge from the long-term memory. State Thevenin's law or Norton's and states Thevenin's or Norton's theorems. That is one example, which I do not have to tell because this type of questions you normally ask in almost all the question papers, right? So that is a out. See, your out in other words, I would put it, your outcome generally helps you to frame the questions. If your outcomes are right, it becomes easy for you to frame the questions. For example, retrieve the relevant knowledge from the long-term memory. Okay? Really retrieve the relevant knowledge from the long-term memory. Now, the next level is determine the meaning of the instructional messages, including oral, written, and graphic communication. Explain the utility of Thevenin's theorem. Now, this is an example of Thevenin's theorem. Okay. Now, you see, determine is written. Though you're writing the determine the meaning of the instructional message. See, the explain is written. Explain the utility of Thevenin's theorem. This the student can do rote learning and then write it down also. Now, what is the difference between describe and explain? Are they the same? Are they synonyms, or they are the same, or they are different? Explain the utility of Thevenin's theorem. You are using the word explain over here. Okay. See, how many are you listening? Can you answer? They are the same? Okay, that's one answer. Any other answer? No, they are not the same. Ajit is saying not same. Yeah, none of them. So most of you say it's not the same. So when do you use explain and when will you use describe? Or they can be used intermittently. See, you will never say explain a table. You will only say describe a table, because you will say a table has a tabletop, it has 4 legs, okay, then it has a leg rest also, things like that. So when you use the word describe, you are actually wanting the student to say what it is. When you want the answer to what, you will use the word describe. You want the answer, when you want the student to describe the construction of something, then you'll use the word describe. When you want the answer to why and how, then you will use the word explain. That means you want to know the working of something, then you'll you'll use the word explain. You will not say describe the working is not right. It's not the right way of, you're not asking to describe the working is not a right question or right outcome. Explain the working of some machine, okay, or some procedure is the correct way of putting an outcome, right? So explain is used when you want the answer why and how from the students. When you want the answer to what or the description, then you'll use the word describe. Okay, so take care when you use the word describe and explain when you formulate questions and outcomes as well. Next comes apply. Carry out or use a procedure in a real situation. I will say it's not the given situation, it is basically in the real given situation. Use Thevenin's theorem to find the current in the given network. This is an outcome, right? Now, how will you frame a question for this? when you use, let me tell you the secret. When you start asking questions at the apply level, this is an outcome. Using this outcome, you can have n number of questions at the apply level, right? It can be a multiple choice question, or it can be a short answer question as well. Let me put it. So what will you do? You will say there is a room with one LED lamp, one ceiling fan, and then one fluorescent tube. And then you will say, find the current in the circuit, something like that. Or use Thevenin's theorem to find the current in the given network. That means you will be given a situation. You have to give a real situation from where Thevenin's theorem will be applied. Why like that? Because when the student when the graduate reaches the industry, he is not asked to explain Thevenin's theorem. He is not given salary to explain Thevenin's theorem. In fact, he is asked to use Thevenin's theorem in that particular situation to solve that circuit problem, or to find the voltage in that circuit or current in that circuit. Real thing. So you in apply means you will have to give real situations. The outcome written is correct, right? You have written the outcome in the curriculum, but when you ask questions from the outcome, the questions will emerge out. That is why writing or framing the right type of apply level outcomes is important. Okay, so that is how it goes about. So this is one. Now another one is the next step. Now let me tell you another situation that is happening over here. If you are asking an apply level up question, it means that he has climbed the understand step and the remember step. Why? Because unless he knows the utility of Thevenin's theorem, he will not be able to apply the Thevenin's theorem. If he is able to use Thevenin's theorem in a given set, that means he knows the utility of Thevenin's theorem and he can state the Thevenin's theorem as well. So when you ask an apply level question, it doesn't mean that you have not asked a remember level question. It means that you have crossed all that. The student has climbed up to a higher level. So when you ask this question, it is called a HOTS question, or higher level thinking skill. And this, in every question paper, there should be at least 70 to 80% of apply level questions. The other day I was talking to an IIT professor. He said, my question papers are never repeated because they give only application level questions to the students. They don't ask. See, this you can ask maybe in the during the initial weeks of the course, so that he understands the concepts and remembers the concepts. But finally, in the industry is not interested in the lower level outcomes at all. They are interested in the higher level outcomes, apply and above. Now, what is the next level? The next level is it breaks its constituent parts and detects how the parts relate to one another and for an overall purpose. Example, interpret the reason for the higher current in the given circuit. That means, for example, if you let us take the lower part again. If the student has used Thevenin's theorem to find the current in the given network, he has found the current. Okay. Now, the current may be high or low. Now, if the current is low or current is high, he will have to interpret the reason for the current to be high. Or if it is low, he has to interpret or give the reason for the current to be low. If he can do that, that means the the higher order thinking skill is a little bit more higher. That means from apply, he has reached this state. So you will have to ask questions which will help the student to do a little bit of reasoning inside his brain. And by doing that reasoning or analysis in the brain, and out of that, he will be able to interpret the reason for that, or give the reason why this is happening. That is analysis. Okay. Okay, we are running short of time. I may repeat it tomorrow also if you have any doubts, but let us go to the next step. Evaluate. Make judgments based on identified criteria and standards. Okay. Now, what is this? The example is evaluate the functioning of the given circuit. So now let us go right from down. First, you made the student to state Thevenin's theorem. Next, what you did, you asked him to explain the utility of Thevenin's theorem. In apply, what you did, you gave him a situation where he will apply Thevenin's theorem. You gave him, I told you about a room, or maybe you give for the given circuit, find out the current or voltage in that branch of the circuit. So it's something like that. Okay. But you must give a real situation. Okay. So then that has happened. So then when he gets the result, he has to interpret the result. Why the current is high or low. Now, evaluate means what? He has given the reason that for this, because of this, the current is high or low. Next level is evaluate the functioning of the given circuit. That means he has to say whether that circuit can be improved. That's one evaluation. Another thing he will say, the circuit is good because our circuit is not good, therefore it should be discarded. That's another judgment is passing. That means evaluate is basically passing a judgment on the interpretation that has happened in the analysis level. So that means he's taking decisions. And this is what the industry wants. Evaluate means you are helping the student to take decisions for various technical problems as well as any other. Right? He is making judgments. So after making judgment, so what does he do? Then creates means he puts the elements together to form a coherent whole or a novel whole. Design circuits for the given voltages and currents. So what has happened is, after evaluating, he found that this current is making the circuit fault or function, does not function effectively, or does not function the way it is desired to be or designed to be. So what does he do? He discards the whole thing and then redesigns the circuit, or designs a circuit to get the desired values. If he does that, that means he has crossed all these steps, right? And he has reached the creation level. That means this is what the industry wants. The industry is interested in these apply and above level outcomes. And if you have to develop the apply and above level of outcomes, you have to formulate questions so that these outcomes are assessed, or the attainment of these outcomes are assessed in the students. So friends, I will stop here because it's 2 o'clock almost, and I can take some questions, and tomorrow I'll try to repeat this, or if there is any more further questions, you can start making some multiple choice. The format will be sent to you through AICTE, but you can make the multiple choice items for apply level, analyze level, evaluate level, and create level. Choose one course. Let me put it like that. I will ask you, choose one course which you are teaching, write down the competency, write down or check the COs of that course based on that competency, write down the practical outcomes, write down the unit outcomes of that course, and once that is done, then only you will be able to do the prepare questions in the correct manner. Okay, so I will stop sharing now, and I will take some questions in the chat box. Do you have any questions? Yes. Okay. Yeah, I've put the link for the book. If anybody wants, can get it. Yes. Any questions? I'm not able to see the chats. Let me see. Yeah. How to develop them? Just what is about the fill in the blanks? Yeah, you can have multiple choice questions for fill in the blanks as well. How we get the assignment questions through the Excel sheet? That will be sent. That will be sent to you through AICT will be sending it to you. Fine. But tomorrow you will get it, because I have some more concepts to be taught today, tomorrow, and then we'll be sending. Even otherwise, I will ask them to send it. What about to bridge the industry and the academia gap? What is the question? Okay, you cannot hear my voice. When to say? Yeah, you have to submit it on the last day, or you may be given one more day after that. Okay, so that's what I have to say. Then see all the comments. Whom to submit? You have to submit all your assignments will be submitted to AICTE, and they will be forwarding it to me, right? To us, not only to me and Dr. S.K. Gupta, BL Gupta is there. Right. Let me see what are the other comments. The link which I've given is for the book, so you can look into that. How to get the assignment questions through the Excel sheet. How we get the assignment questions Excel. You will be getting the assignments in the Excel sheet. What is the difference between RBT and BT? Revised Bloom's taxonomy is what we are using now. We are not using Bloom's taxonomy. In Bloom's taxonomy, synthesis was on the top, right? No, synthesis was below, but now we are using create as above, and everything is verb wise. It is remember, understand, apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. In the earlier, it was knowledge comprehension, like that it used to go, right? So there is it was improved, let me put it. It is the same group that worked on it. How to make syllabus more industry oriented. To make the syllabus industry oriented, I've already told you the procedure. You start with competencies, then match the COs with the competencies, then from the COs write down the practical outcomes, and then maybe I will show you tomorrow how how a typical curriculum which is industry oriented. Tomorrow I will show you an example of that, because today it's already 2 o'clock. Can we, because that requires a little bit of discussion as well, but it all starts with the competency, let me put it. Unless you have identified, formulated the correct competency, you will not be able to establish the industry connect. Can we have a simple question, sample question for the Excel sheet? Okay, that I will show you tomorrow again, no worries. This I told you in advance so that you can start thinking. First of all, choose a course that you want to. Based on that course, all the questions will have to design. Sir, I am in management. There are too many variables, unlike engineering. How can we go with it? With whatever be the program, it can be outcome based. Let me put it. Because what does the industry want? From each course, what does the industry want? That you'll have to find out. Each course will have a competency or what the industry has to do, what the industry expects from each course, that you'll have to get from. Competencies are identified with the industry, let me put it. So it is a chicken egg situation. Either you make a competency, get it validated from the industry, or get the competency from the industry and find the matching course for that. There are two ways of looking at it. From where can we get the link of the assignment? No, it will be sent to you. I'm just looking at the chats now. Okay. Can we find the current or determine the current? You can use either find the current or determine. Both are okay. Both are action verbs. Okay. So I think we can call it a day. Keep thinking on what all have been discussed with you. Choose a course, formulate the competency, and match the COs, which I have discussed with you. And tomorrow we'll continue with this. That's what all I have to say. So I'll call it a day. So bye everybody, everyone. Okay.
Thank you so much, Joshua sir and VL Gupta sir, for such an informative and wonderful session. As I have just written in the chat box that all the participants will be receiving the link for Google Form link for submitting the question paper, subjective and objective both, through the mail ID examreform@aicte-india.org, and you all will be receiving the same at the end of the day 2 of the workshop. So thank you everyone for joining the session. Please submit your question paper in time, and that you will be receiving at the end of the day 2, that is tomorrow. Thank you everyone.